Hello and welcome to JagaVision. We're on episode 129 today. It's our first day back from the time off. We were just away for 2 weeks, having a little bit of winter break, rested and inspired. So really looking forward to a year of JagaVision, a year of exploration, and a year of good conversation. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Jared Nyberg. I am co-owner of JagaSilk, and I am the host of the show. I regularly have guests on, and we take a deep dive into various topics over tea. Is essentially what the show is about. There's lots of archived episodes you can check out. If you go to jagasilk.com and click on the videos, it'll take you to our live section, or you can go to youtube.com/jagasilk. You're going to want to click on the live tab to be able to see all the past episodes. There's going to be some interesting stuff happening this year. We're working with a really interesting production company to put out some new highlight videos that you should be checking out. We're going to be re-releasing some of our old episodes that have been a little bit chopped up and highlighted so that you can digest them a little bit easier. But if you want to see the full conversations, you want to click on that live tab in our YouTube channel. You can also go and check out our teas, etc., that we talk about on jagasilk.com. Today's episode is going to be an episode on tea. I'm told that our honorary co-host, Sister Speak, will be joining us from her travels. She's on her way to the West Coast, actually, from New York right now. And so she might be joining from an airport. Who knows, though, when she's traveling on her tours, etc., things can get a little bit dicey. So we'll be happy to have her on if that indeed happens. But for today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Huang Jin Gui. So you probably don't know what I'm talking about. So let's weigh some out here. I'm going to be making an oolong, essentially. I'm going to be making it in these 4 different tea pots. I'm going to be making our Huang Jin Gui, which we had last, I think, was it 2019? JV, do you remember if it was 2019? 2020. Okay, so it was 2020 that we last had it. And it's the same farmer as when we last had it, Mr. Sai. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I just got some interesting teapots out of Hong Kong. So I'm excited to try them out. They're these blue ones that you can see, this one here and this one here. What's really exciting for me is I was told by Daniel, owner of the Chinese tea shop in Vancouver, that if I want to have a nice oolong, it's a good idea to have one that has this particular shape. And one of the reasons for that is that it's just really good for, I guess, trapping the aromatics. I actually don't really understand why it's encouraged, but I'm going to just do sort of a try and understand it just through drinking it. I like the shape because it reminds me of this award-winning whiskey glass, the Glencairn, and I think that's kind of cool. I do know that one of my favorite ways to have tea is definitely the where are we? There we go. Is via a gaiwan. So I thought I should compare it to a gaiwan. One of the things that I was told is not a good idea is to have an oolong in an Yixing teapot. These are fantastic for your deeper, more bassy teas. Maybe something like a really nice pu'er, etc. They're a little tiny pot. This one holds about 80, 90 mils. This gaiwan that I really love. This is from Bitterleaf Teas. We had them on the show too. You should check out that show. That was really fascinating. This is actually my favorite gaiwan. And for those of you watching that don't know what a gaiwan is, it's just essentially this shaped little tiny cup with a lid on it. The lid is used for holding the tea back as you pour it into cups, decanter, and in some regions in China you actually even drink right out of the gaiwan. And then we have this teapot here. I wasn't super stoked about it because it felt a little bit heavy to me, but my wife was pointing out to me just the gorgeousness of the dragon design on the side. And that's probably one of the reasons I'm thinking that it's a little bit heavier. So now that I know that there's a rationale behind that thick glaze, what I at first thought was just kind of maybe a flaw in the teapot is not. And regardless, it's gorgeous color, so it should be interesting. So first and foremost, we're going to try it my favorite way. We're going to try it in a Gaiwan. So this particular tea I've been enjoying as a 90-degree centigrade extraction. I like to use 180 mils for my settings. That's what's on the package. And then I like to, hold on, steep it for 2 minutes. Now, I've been really enjoying Gong Fu Cha, though, with the Jin Xuan, which is my more recent fresh oolong. And this Huang Jin Gui, the Gui means osmanthus, and it is true to form a very aromatic tea. And what I find really interesting about the fresh oolongs that are done really well is that without any sort of added fragrances, you just get these extremely potent floral expressions of flavor. And this is definitely a winner in that regard. If you are more of a classicist or you have more of a desire for a classic fresh oolong style that's a little bit more got a little bit more toasty qualities to it, I don't think this is the tea for you. But if you're one of those ones that searching for that very fragrant, jasmine-y, more super floral, modern trend for say like a Taiwanese style, I think this is the tea for you. These plants are quite young. They're reverse imported from Taiwan into Fujian, China. Mr. Sai does, again, or is this Mr. Wang? Oh, it might be Mr. Wang. I think it's Mr. Wang. And Mr. Wang is the one that has the 8-year-old plants. Mr. Sai has the 12-year-old plants. Really, you only want to start harvesting them when they're at least that age. We've been actually drinking these since they were too young really to enjoy, and they were still really enjoyable. So that's saying something. Okay, so I'm at 90 degrees centigrade with my water. I'm going to grab myself a decanter. I'm going to put my tea leaves into the Gaiwan. I'm going to do a little bit of a rinse. Empty that into the tea stage. Give it a little, yeah, really, really nice, fragrant, aromatic. Okay, let's add some more. Fill it about 80% full, which I've measured to be around 70 grams, over 4 grams. I'm going to give it about, I'd say, maybe 15 seconds. So this is, again, Gong Fu Cha style. On our packaging, we still have more of a Taiwanese style of preparation that we've learned from some Taiwanese farmers that we've interacted with in the past, which is a slightly lower temperature for a longer amount of time. So I did this, actually, though, at 90 degrees. What am I thinking? I want to do Gong Fu Cha, but I've done 90 degrees. So should I restart, or should I try this at 2 minutes? I'm going to try it at 2 minutes, so I'll do a minute and a half. No, this is going to betray what I'm trying to do here. So I am going to just drink this Gaiwan style. Going to empty out the Gaiwan, sorry, Gong Fu Cha style with 90 degrees, and then I'm going to redose and do it with 100 degrees. That's what I'm going to do. Grab myself a cup here. Okay. Let's see what that tastes like. Nice liquid color, pale green. Really nice osmanthus. Nose. Wow, that's a lovely way of drinking this tea. Huh. I'm surprised I got so much flavor out of it, considering that it was 90 degrees and I didn't do my full 2 minutes. This might be worth exploring, actually, as a tea that I don't do that way. Wow. You know what? Rather than redoing this tea, because this is thoroughly enjoyable, I'm just going to cool it back down to 90 degrees and just wing it this way. Try it in these different teapots at 90 and see if it's something I'm digging, and if it's better out of the Gaiwan, which has been my preferred method, or if it's better or the same out of one of these other teapots, or worse. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, so define better, right? What am I expecting as I heat this up to 90? I guess I'm expecting that the Yixing teapot with its more porous clay is going to maybe cool faster. I think that the actual minerality of the clay being unglazed, if you look inside, there's no glaze. I feel like that's going to interact with the extraction in a way that's going to really encourage me to use more tea if I want to bring out a pleasant flavor or like an ideal flavor. And what is ideal flavor? Yeah, I just want to have a nice texture. I want some nice aromatics. I want it to speak to me as a good extraction. And I often look for something that we've often called a fourth pulse back in the day, which is after the finish is done and I've got a nice texture, I've got a nice initial flavor, it kind of wafts back and it's not watery. It's got some identity. So yeah, I think that's very, very likely going to be this tea. Tasting really nice in these two teapots, and maybe a little bit lackluster in this one, is what I'm assuming. So let's go to the Yixing then. I know that this one also has a similar water volume, so I'm going to put in a similar 4-gram dose. So 4 grams. And then I'm going to do the same idea. I'm going to just do a rinse here. And then let's see what this does insofar as creating a nice extraction in the Yixing. So again, I'm expecting it to not be as nice. Let's see what happens. So with the Yixing, I like to fill it right to the top, scrape off a little bit of the bubbles, put the lid on, splash a little bit of water on top, and then when it's done extracting, most of that water is going to evaporate off of the lid through just evaporation. It's hot water. And then I like to decant it, see what it tastes like. Okay, that's looking pretty good. The color looks quite similar to what I was drinking just now. A nice thought when you're choosing a teapot. I'm constantly looking for teapots that are smaller. I think that you just get a much nicer flavor out of your tea because you're able to keep the water pretty much filled right to the top of the vessel that you're extracting out of. I think that when there's too much air in the vessel that you're brewing with, it's just not as, it doesn't seem to produce as ideal of a flavor. Maybe it's losing aromatics. Maybe there's a cooling element that's happening that you don't want. I'm not quite sure what it is, but definitely dosing to suit the volume of your teapot seems to be pretty key. So if you're going to use a massive teapot like you see in, say, like English style teas, I think you're going to find that that it's not going to be ideal because you're going to have to use a fantastic amount of tea. And this way you can just keep rebrewing. Like I'm just doing one extraction, but really you should be doing multiple extractions. And rebrewing small amounts of tea. Yeah, that's still pretty good, but definitely it could handle being steeped a lot longer than I did. Yeah. That would to me taste like an under extracted tea. And that is, I get a little bit of a watery finish, and I don't really get much fourth pulse. The initial opening is pretty decent, The aromatics are somewhat lackluster. Same tea, different brewing vessel, and I'm getting fantastically different results for sure. So as we've learned over the years, definitely these two are producing different results. Again, to make this one taste nicer, I know I just need to dose a lot more. Maybe like instead of 4 grams, do 5 or 6 grams in here for the same amount of water. And I'm probably going to taste something a little bit more meaty. But I'm told that I'm going to lose aromatics, and I believe I've definitely lost some aromatics there. So let me move on. So we have 2 teapots now. One. So what I like to do when I'm learning a new teapot, so I've never brewed in either of these teapots. So why don't I just put this on the scale? You can see a little bit better what I'm doing. And I'm gonna just grab myself some cold water, and we can see what I need. So I like, again, 1 gram for every mil. Sorry, one gram for every 30 mils is kind of where I do that 2-minute extraction. But if you do 1 gram for every 20 mils of water, that's more like gong fucha. If not, 1 gram for every 10 or 15 mils if you really want to pack it. But to understand what that looks like, you need to know your total volume. This looks like a pretty big teapot to me. Now next to my hand, it doesn't look that big. You know, it's like probably somewhere between 120 and 180. But I've been really liking these 70 mil teapots. So let's see though, there is a thick glaze on the side, but I do think it's going to be filled to the top like 180. Okay, filled to the top. Like really to the top, like uncomfortably full, we're looking at 173. So around 175, I think I could get that to. I'm going to say this is kind of like more like where I probably fill it to. It's going to be more like 160. So if I'm going to dose for 160, I probably need double what I was using. So I'm going to put in 8 grams to make this in a similar method because, and I should probably show this to you on the camera, if I was to fill this teapot, or better for showing to you if I empty it completely, but if I fill this empty teapot with water that I just brewed in, it's going to be filled uncomfortably to the top, 100. Okay, so that's 100 mils. That makes sense for why that was actually a lot less extracted than the Gaiwan, because I was using the same dose, and I think the Gaiwan was more like 70 grams. So if I empty the Gaiwan and I tear the scale and I get a sense of the water I was brewing with was about that much, that's only 60. So it's 40% less water in the Gaiwan than in this little tiny Yixing teapot. So it's really, even though I work with these guys all the time, carefully measuring it like this every once in a while is a good idea because it'll let you remember what you're working with. And honestly, if you want to be super consistent, probably a good idea to measure how much water you're using every time. Okay, so good for me to learn that. This though was 170, so it's going to be 70 grams more than the Yixing. And then this final teapot, just understanding it, let's see if it does another 170 or if it's less or more. It seems like less. I thought maybe 120. Filled uncomfortably to the top. Probably use less than that. Is 138.5 or 140. So that's 30 mils less, or 30 grams less in that particular teapot. Okay. So I had a nice flavor out of the Gaiwan. I'm going to match that. So we were using 60 mils. 60 mils, and I was using 4 grams. So last time I checked, that's 1 gram for every 15 mils. But let's use a calculator. 60 divided by 4 equals 1.5. Okay, so that means we were using 1.5 grams. No, 60. How do I do this? 60, yeah, divided by how many grams? Divided by 4 is 15. So yeah, it's 1 gram per 15 mils. So if I have my teapot that I just measured was 175 for the one and 130 for the other. If I say 130 divided by 15, that'll give me how many grams I should use, which is about 8.6. Okay, so this guy should use 8.6 grams. The 170 divided by 15. This guy should use 11.3 grams for the same, if I want the same flavor. So to me, if you tell me to use 11.3 grams of tea, I'm going to think that's a little bit overkill because these are expensive teas and I don't think I'm going to, like, I like to drink out of smaller cups, so each infusion is just going to give me too much liquid to enjoy on my own. So that turns these teapots more into group teapots. This is something that I might bring out if I have, more people drinking tea together. I don't think I'd do a solo session with these. Even the little tiny teapots I use for group sessions because it's totally okay to just have a few sips and just re-steep the same tea like 15, 16 times. But if I re-steep 15, 16 times a teapot that's 170 mils, suddenly I have so much liquid. It's like it gets a little overwhelming. So, at first glance, a 150 milliliter teapot is small, right? But yeah, I think that when you start working with them and you're drinking tea this way, they start being quite large. This is more like more people. So regardless, I do want to taste the aromatics, so I'm going to put 8 grams of tea into this teapot. It's a very narrow opening, so I'm going to use my AeroPress funnel. Drop in 8 grams. Okay. And then I'm going to move my scale off of here. Close the lid. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to do and hi to the Okanagan, by the way, I just saw the comment. The 90 grams of water, and I'm going to do a rinse like I did for the other ones. So I'm just going from memory here, and it's actually better if you can do this blind. So if you were to compare teapots, it's better if you don't know what you're drinking and you just brew it or have somebody brew it for you, I guess, and then you can compare it not knowing what you're comparing, because there is a lot to be said about just assuming that something's going to taste a particular way and then just kind of making that reality happen even if it's not necessarily true. So okay, so I'm going to fill that right up. Oh, it smells really nice, as it did in the Gaiwan, but I feel like it's almost, like it's almost like the steam is more focused, maybe because of that the shape. So I'm feeling like that it's an even nicer smell as I poured the tea onto the tea leaves. Okay, so let's see how this pours. That's important. How's it going to pour? Okay, and personally, I'm all about a 3-second exit time. So for me, this is a very long pour. So I might start extracting a little bit earlier than I would say the Gaiwan, which is an instant pour, or the Yixing teapot, which is pretty fast too. It's actually kind of, when I look at it, reminds me of a little bit of a pour over kettle, how it's been designed. Kind of interesting. This teapot's from a teapot maker in Hong Kong. Okay, so smells really good. It actually reminds me of what we were drinking earlier today when we were just sampling this tea and seeing if our brew settings were ideal or not. Yeah, it's a lot more like meaty, decent flavor, but a little watery. I have to say this isn't as ideal as I want it to be. What I'm going to do, and one of the reasons I'm going to do this was a very expensive teapot, is I'm going to see what happens if I brew it the way that we have for our settings that we plan to release with this particular tea. So I'm going to do a 2-minute extraction. First, I got to move the tea leaves out so I get a better sense of what this tea is going to taste like in this teapot. Okay, look at that, hey? They get so voluminous once you extract the tea. The leaves really swell up. Look at that. That was 8 grams. So just should compare that for you. It's kind of interesting. In a similarly sized bowl, if I was going to weigh out what I put in there, which was 8 grams, this is 8 grams. Isn't that crazy? So you have 8 grams here, you have 8 grams here. This is just swollen from rehydration during the extraction process. Okay, so now I'm gonna dial in for 150 grams of liquid weight, which is going to require, if I'm doing 1 gram per 30 mils, it's going to require 5 grams. So I'm going to do 5 grams, and I'm going to brew this oolong more Taiwanese style. So I'm going to do 90 degrees centigrade, and I'm going to do it for 2 minutes. And again, it's not, I think what I've proven to myself is that perhaps this particular teapot isn't an ideal candidate for gong fu cha. So I'm not going to be doing flash infusions. Well, I might be able to get away with boiling water. I have to remind myself. Right now I've kind of made a decision early on today to do this experiment using 90 degrees centigrade water. Kind of interesting. I'm kind of at a crossroads. Do I do 90 degrees for 2 minutes? Or do I do, you know what, I'm going to do both. So we're going to drink this as 150 grams of water in my nice little new teapot. And I'm going to put 150 grams of water on top. So that's 5 grams. That's 1 gram per 30 mils. And let's see what happens here. So this is no rinse. This is what would be on the package if we were to go through with what our the way we were brewing this when we released it 2 years ago. And apparently my memory is terrible because it's not 150 grams. Oh my goodness, what a mess today. Oh well, 130, we're pretty close. Awesome. But beautiful teapot. Hopefully it tastes good. While I'm doing that, I also prepare for the next test, which is going to be 100 and I'm going to do the same teapot, but I'm going to use 100 degrees centigrade water. So I'll just grab some more water. And I'm going to boil it to 100. And then I would love to be able to use this teapot using the Gong Fu Cha method. That would be ideal for me. That's the way that I want to do it. So, yeah. Looks like the video's shot on me. There it is. Got the video back. Okay, so that's it. 1 minute and 20 seconds. And what I'm going to do then is I'm also going to weigh out the next dose. So we'll do 5 grams again. Or will we? We're going to do gongfucha. I want this to be gongfucha, so I'll do 8 grams. Okay. Yeah, if you have like a 6-ounce teapot, actually a really nice one, is that 180 milliliter unit that we sell, but you can also get from Hario, and they're these beautiful glass 180 milliliter teapots. Highly recommend them. Okay, this is at 2 minutes now, and again we call this Taiwanese style because lower temperatures, longer extraction time seems to be a nice way to brew these fresh oolongs. Okay. And that poured out a lot easier. It was a much faster extraction, like kind of drop time out of the teapot. Less leaf in there, I guess, interrupting, like less tightly packed, maybe, is what's going on. So let's see what that tastes like. It's still pretty pallid. Yeah. It's surprising to me that that's not as nice as the Gaiwan at all. Like the Gaiwan is so much, like the Gaiwan Gongfucha method was fantastic. That's pretty good, but I liked it better out of our glass teapot that we tried this morning. And that's just the honest truth. So expensive teapots don't always mean good teapots. But I could just be using it incorrectly. So let's just allow for that reality to be there too. So let's now experiment. One final experiment is, can I use this as a gongfucha style teapot if I increase the water temperature to 100 degrees? My easy way to work with this tea is just in a nice little Gaiwan. So that's what I'll probably do. But we've come this far, might as well, right? Okay, so that's 8 grams. And we're going to do boiling water. And we're going to do it to 130, 120. Okay. Let's just do 120. It's a little bit more comfortable. Okay. And generally speaking, for my first extraction, gongfucha style, I like to go about 30, maybe 40 seconds. But it's an intuitive process, and I really enjoy that part of it. I'm such a numbers fixated person, oftentimes with extraction, that I get a little bit lost in that. And so it's nice to have a moment to step back and be, you know what, does it feel already? That's a good question, right? Okay, as I'm pouring, I'm finding that the top of the teapot is quite hot, and so I guess I got to be a little bit better at maybe pouring a little slower. I'm used to pouring out of a teapot like this quite quickly, a small teapot quite quickly, but this particular style looks like that, again, that drop time is a lot slower, so the liquid might hang out on the lid and make the top a little bit harder to handle. You know, you can't, I don't know if you could see that, but that looks like a lot nicer extraction. Like the boiling water has really brought out a richer color, a noticeably richer color. So, you know, all along I probably should have been using boiling water, assuming that this hasn't made it now extremely astringent. So, smells way better. Yeah, that's like a 10 out of 10. So definitely, if I'm brewing in this, yeah, like I got a nice finish, I got nice body, I'm getting complex flavors way, way, way better. Like that 10-degree difference is just night and day. Same extraction, same teapot, and I should know this, but you know, when I'm making a fresh oolong, I often drop the temperature down because I do longer extraction times, and longer extraction times at boiling water temperatures for these fresh oolongs do make them taste a little bit, I think, unideal. Yeah, cup smells great. Um, I think if I'm gonna use this teapot, I'm definitely gonna use boiling water. The Yixing teapot, I'm gonna definitely pack a little bit more into it to give it a fair trial, and I think that's gonna make a big difference. So yeah, drinking it this way, um, uh, 8 grams, 120 mils, boiling water, 35, 40 seconds. Really nice way to have this tea. Highly recommend. Oh yeah, the cooked sugar. It's cooling and just getting more and more magnificent. Yeah, what a fantastic aromatic. There's like butter, like really, really aromatic, floral butter. Yeah, Huang Jin Gui. So you need to try this tea. It's about to release. We've released it in 2020. We're bringing it back for 2022. Same farmer, new harvest. Absolutely fantastic. Very obviously quite flexible in terms of your brewing strategy, and I think you're gonna really enjoy this. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna have a couple more extractions, but that's gonna be the show today. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Really appreciate you tuning in. We should have some really interesting shows coming out this year. I hope you stay tuned. I know that we're talking to Adam Creek about getting on the show again. He's been on in the past, but we're gonna do a little bit of showing him Gong Fu Cha style tea brewing. We're also going to talk to Ratio, the owner of Ratio. Andrew is going to be coming on the show, and we're going to be talking about using this process in a high volume cafe and what that might look like. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. Should be fun. And just stay tuned for more guests. Watch us on Instagram. We're going to do a little bit better job of promoting the shows so that you know what's going on. We're also going to be making highlights of previous shows that are more snippets so that you can go and watch some of these older shows without, some of them are like an hour and a half long. So maybe, focusing in on the really interesting parts and making them make a little bit more cohesive sense will be interesting. Working with, again, a really great production company, so we're really excited to launch these. So stay tuned for that. But live streams are Thursdays at 2 o'clock on YouTube. And archive videos can be found at youtube.com/JagaSilk. And you can, you can see. We'd love to have questions in the comments section. You can also send us, email us some questions that you might be interested in to info@jagasilk.com, and that's a good place. My team will forward me those questions, and you can have them answered on the show. So looking forward to those, or you can put them again in the YouTube comments, and we'll do our best to answer them there as well. Really appreciate you tuning in. My name is Jared Nyberg. I'm on the show every week, and again, this is 129 weeks of JagaVision, and we're stoked to bring these to you. Take care, have a fantastic day, and see ya next week.